Roundabouts and Firewood, a mental health approach for Irish guys. Chapter 37, Reassuring Words. It was not unlike Fiona to head out to her mom's in Dundalk for a few days, or her dad's in Kildare. Cian took no notice of her absence, and at 16, as long as he was fed or given money to get food, everything was copacetic in his world. 4 days after she had taken all her stuff, my son arrived home 10 minutes after curfew. I was feeling the initial sting of the abandonment, so I did what many guys do in that situation. I redirected my anger at the person in the closest proximity. That was Cian. "You're 10 minutes late!" I screamed from the hallway as he entered the door. "Sorry, Dad, I sent a text I was going to be late. I haven't eaten, so is it okay for me to get something across the street?" "You could have gotten food earlier. I don't need any of your bullshit. Do you understand? No more of your bullshit." Cian understood that the quicker he agreed, the quicker he'd be able to get the much-needed spice bag. So he just nodded his head, hoping that would be enough. "Come here." I walked into my bedroom, and my son followed. "Look," I said, pointing at the closet. "What do you see?" Cian examined the empty closet for a few seconds, and then looked over to me and said, "Nothing." "Yeah, nothing. And if you look around the room, you'll see more of nothing. Fiona moved out without saying a word, just took her stuff and left. Do you understand? So I don't need any of your bullshit tonight. Got it?" Cian was surprised. He realized that this wasn't some OCD thing. His dad had a legitimate reason for being upset. "Yeah, I got it. Sorry about all this." He paused and then said, "I do need to get some food, so is it okay if I do that? I'll be back in a few minutes." I handed him my debit card and walked out of the bedroom. The next morning, I was sitting at the computer editing a video when Cian walked into the room. "Dad, can I talk to you for a minute?" I turned off the computer, looked up at him, and said, "All right, let's talk." It was clear that my son understood the seriousness of the situation and that I was upset over something real. It was big. I was hurting. Some words of support were needed. Over the years, we had been through a lot, and like those early days back in Tralee when everything was falling apart and the OCD was kicking my ass, I was certain Cian was about to say something to remind me that everything was going to be okay. He sat down on a chair a few feet away, and these were the reassuring words my son spoke to me. "Dad, I want you to understand something. If I knew it was okay to jump ship, I would have left a long time before Fiona." And for the first time in nearly a week, I laughed. Chapter 38, Support. Things at home had been strange since the lockdown, but that was true everywhere. There had been nothing to lead me to think that my relationship was about to end. Admittedly, Fiona and I had gotten engaged and married too soon. Still, we had built what I thought was a solid friendship, one that had seen us through some demanding times. No matter, it was over, and I had to accept that. But accepting and coping are two different things. By June, I had fully embraced the idea that there were unique challenges with the lockdown. No longer could I go to work, play tennis, go to the gym, or hang out with the fellas. Now, there was one adult in my life who I had to depend on for far too many things. So when she left, I was lost. And the next 3 months were full of intense anger, bouts of depression, and elevated levels of anxiety. The first person I reached out to was Gavin, the friend who had introduced Cian to the gym. I sent him a text about my new situation, and a few hours later he showed up to meet me for coffee. For 2 years we'd been having an ongoing conversation about the need to work through the trials of life and how struggle is an essential part of that. When he met me that morning, Gavin delivered a clear message. This sucks, but you're going to have to work through it, and the most important thing is not to sit in the apartment. Get out and run, get out and do something, get out and do anything. Damien was the next person to get a call. He was my neighbor in Tralee. For 9 years, he witnessed and heard about my eccentric behavior. He knew as well as anyone that I was at risk of going down a hole. Like Gavin, he made it clear I was to stay active. And one more thing, he added, don't go out and meet a new woman. That's not the solution. That's the problem. If you do, I'll stand behind your car when you're pulling out and hit it so you think you killed someone. Then I'll pour bleach all over it so you won't even be able to get out. He knew how to bring the point home. Mike's approach was simple. He refused to acknowledge Fiona's name or existence. Listen, he said to me when I called him, that person doesn't exist. So don't act like she does. You're single. You've got Cian. Your life is simple. You are the envy of every married man. You have a kid who is independent and you can do what you want. So go do it. Todd, my brother, who lives in Oregon, did the family thing. He made it clear there was us and there was them. That's it. Just let me know if you need anything, he said to me. Shay, a Dubliner who was a few years older than me and has been married for 25 plus years, couldn't understand it. He provided the reflective, rational explanation. If a woman doesn't understand that marriage is a marathon, not a sprint, there's nothing you can do. It's out of your hands. You're in Dublin, you have plenty of friends, and you'll get through this. It was Michael who made the necessary jokes. He'd been over to the apartment for Thanksgiving dinner, and, as always, I put on a tournament of party games. His first response when hearing the news. She was always the weak link in the games. She was terrible at cup stacking, and don't get me started about her inability to make a tower out of paper plates. Embarrassing how bad she was. It's clearly her loss, and your next one will be your gain. Gavin, Damien, Mike, Todd, Shay, and Michael rallied around me for the next 3 months, checking in, meeting for walks, making jokes, reminding me about future opportunities, and just staying in contact. They didn't ask if I was feeling down. Instead, they did what I needed the most, challenged me to stay active and work through it. Taking my cue from them, and knowing that action was the only way to go, I was rarely in the apartment. I have never been so active in my adult life. Yes, there were the pangs of depression, and the anxiety was in no short supply. Yet, I can say with the help of my troop that I fucked it so it wouldn't fuck me. Of course, the heavy load was put on the shoulders of my 16-year-old son. Even on the days he spent the night at his mom's, he checked in on me, either through a call or stopping by for a few minutes. He always wanted to know what I was going to do that day, when I was going to take my run, and who I had contacted to get some much-needed social interaction. The summer holiday ended for Cian late in August. Transition year was aptly named. He had to make the transition to no school, no gym, no social contacts, the surprise exit of a woman who had been in his life for 8 years, and finally watching his dad work his way through it. Cian was at our apartment the evening before 5th year began. On that Wednesday night, he walked into the front room and told me he had something to say to me. After he took a seat, he said, I just want you to know this was the best summer I ever had. I waited for the punchline, but there wasn't any. He was serious. I'd raised him to be independent, but that summer he had more freedom than ever. I just made sure he was fed by giving him money to get takeout. Besides that, I can't really remember what went on between us. Somehow, I had accomplished what every parent who goes through a demanding experience wants to achieve. Not messing up your kid because you're messed up. A few days after telling me how great his summer went, sleep deprivation would put an end to the honeymoon.